Hello, it's Saturday the 4th of June. You're tuned in to our 6 p.m. newscast on Arirang TV. Thank you for being with us. I'm Mark Broom. We begin with President Park Geun-hye's trip to France. Holding summit talks with her French counterpart in Paris, the two leaders vowed to strengthen their ties on the economic and security fronts. France also had some strong words for North Korea. Our Song Ji-sun reports from Paris.
The leaders of South Korea and France have hailed their countries' relations, saying ties are stronger now than ever before. During their summit talks at the Élysée Palace in Paris, President Park Geun-hye and her French counterpart François Hollande adopted a joint communiqué aimed at reinforcing their comprehensive partnership. They said South Korea and France's growth engines for the future will be focused on the creative economy and cultural prosperity, adding the two sides will reinforce cooperation in high-tech industries. The allies also share their common stance against North Korea's nuclear ambitions.
북한이 핵포기 이외에는 다른 대안이 없다는 점을 분명하게 깨닫도록 하고 북핵 문제의 궁극적 해결이 될 수밖에 없는 한반도 통일을 위한 우리의 노력에 대해서도 프랑스 측의 이해와 지지를 구하였습니다.
France, a permanent member of the UN Security Council and current president of the Council, reaffirmed that it was deeply opposed to North Korea's nuclear weapons program. Hollande also pledged to take additional measures if necessary.
North Korea's provocations and nuclear proliferation threatens global security. As an ally of South Korea, France will always support Seoul and stand by its side.
The pledge was echoed by the two presidents at a state banquet later in the evening, where the leaders again reaffirmed their commitments to denuclearize North Korea, as well as cooperation in areas such as anti-terrorism, weapons proliferation, and cyber-terrorism. On Saturday, President Park will make a stop in the southeastern city of Grenoble to see France's renewable energy development firsthand before wrapping up her state visit. Setting a new vision of cooperation towards the future, Korea and France vowed stronger partnership both on bilateral and global levels to achieve peace and prosperity. President Park will arrive in Seoul on Sunday. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News, Paris.
Now, following their summit talks, Presidents Park and Hollande watched the signing of dozens, really, of memorandums of understanding between the two countries. 27 MOUs were signed in the science, technology and ICT sectors. For more on how the two leaders intend to work together to create a more creative economy, our tech correspondent Kim Ji-yeon reports.
High on the agenda for President Park Geun-hye and French President François Hollande during their bilateral summit was boosting cooperation in science and technology sectors.
또한 양국은 신성장 동력을 창출하기 위해서 바이오, 인공지능, ICT, 융복합 등 신산업 분야로 기술 협력을 확대하고 상호 투자 및 제3국 공동 투자를 위해서도 함께 노력해 나가기로 하였습니다.
France's Law France tech policy resembles Korea's creative economy initiative, which aims to create sustainable development and boost the number of high-quality jobs by developing healthy startup ecosystems. For starters, state-run institutions from the two countries are expanding their cooperation to nurture startups. The Center for Creative Economy and Innovation in Daegu signed an agreement to incubate startups in Grenoble, France, in particular young entrepreneurs engaging in the sectors of healthcare, energy, e-commerce, Internet of Things, and digital transition. The Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, or KAIST, and France's École Polytechnique have agreed to expand student exchange in multiple degree programs. To celebrate the two countries' 130 years of diplomatic ties, the Korea Aerospace Research Institute and France's Space Museum in Toulouse will be opening up a joint exhibition of space satellite images and exchange commemorative stamps to mark the 130-year anniversary. The ministry says expanding cooperation with France will also open new windows of opportunities for Korean startups to advance into the European market. Already Seoul-based software company Sistron International is expected to sign an agreement with France's largest state-run think tank, the National Center for Scientific Research, for joint research in the development of artificial intelligence. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Now, for an expert's perspective of the President's trip to France, we are joined by Nam Changhee, Professor of Political Science and Diplomacy at Inha University in Incheon. Thank you for joining us, Professor.
Thank you for having me.
Now, President Park's state visit to France was largely a reason to celebrate 130 years of diplomatic relations between Seoul and Paris. But there's also been a lot of focus on improving the already good, strong economic ties between South Korea and France, and also garnering support from Paris for President Park's North Korea policies. How would you assess the President's trip to France thus far?
Well, President Park made a visit to 3 African countries prior to her visit to France this time. And they're interrelated. And President Park has done her best to expand Korea's business territory overseas through cultivating global network of trade and investment and knowledge sharing. And this is part of her efforts to expand Korea's economic territory. President Hollande voted full support for South Korea's effort to resolve North Korea's nuclear problem. So in that regard, I think I could say it was a successful trip.
Yeah, absolutely. President Hollande has always been a very strong opponent of North Korea's nuclear programs, of course. Now, one of the President's first engagements in Paris was the South Korea-France Business Forum. Do you think the deals signed there, reached at that forum, and also the ones that were agreed on in Iran and the 3 African countries that she was in prior to France, will give the domestic economy a real and much-needed shot in the arm?
Oh, yeah. Well, nowadays, presidents play like a top marketing CEO of Korean business community. As we all know, the global recession is slowing industrial growth and export of South Korea. And for example, Korea's shipbuilding is in decline. And emerging economies like China is rapidly catching up the South Korean businesses. So Korea needs to pioneer new area of business opportunities, as was suggested and steered by the slogan of create economy and cultural boost. So I hope her efforts this time bear tangible fruit so that Korea somehow models through the coming economic recession, I hope.
Yeah, it's very tough times, not only for South Korea, but for the entire world at the moment, the global economic slowdown. As you touched upon briefly in your last answer, one of the President's real key initiatives is her creative economy drive, and closely linked to that, of course, is ICT. As we just heard in our previous report, President Park and Francois Hollande signed dozens of MOUs to that end. How significant do you think they could end up being?
Yeah, the 2 summits, the heads of the government issued a communique this time. And as you know, Korea is good at applied technology, and France is advanced in basic sciences. So the countries are complementary in a sense. So they can make great synergy effect through research and production cooperation. And to name some of the fields, they may include information communication technology and nanotechnology and bioscience and biocluster or electric and hydrogen cars. So we have a lot to cooperate with each other so that we can benefit together.
Yeah, absolutely. South Korea and France are really leading the technology of the 21st century, and if they can create an even stronger alliance in that regard, that would be extremely helpful to both sides, of course. And finally, President Park heads to Grenoble later tonight, the south of France, in the foot of the French Alps. But according to her official schedule, she's only going to be there for a few hours. Why do you think she decided to make her final stop there? We believe that she's also going to take a tour around the renewable energy projects in that city, but why do you think she chose Grenoble as her last stop?
It is not because that the location has the renewable energy plant, but in 1974, she spent about 6 months as a postgraduate program, probably to learn French. And in her memoir, she wrote that it was her best time in her life.
Yeah.
So maybe she was a bit nostalgic about her best time she had in France.
Well, she speaks some French.
She does.
She
yes.
remembers French from her time there, and let's hope she can meet some old friends from her university days there.
Yeah, sure.
Well, thank you very much for your insights, Professor, and for coming in and spending your Saturday evening with us.
My pleasure.
That was Professor Nam Changhee from Inha University in Incheon, sharing his insights on the President's trip to France. And we are going to stay in France now, and President Park Geun-hye says there is still room to further expand bilateral trade and investment. She said that during a recent business forum there. For a closer look at French businesses operating in Korea, the good, the bad, and Korea's potential as a market for French investors, Hwang Ho-jun reports.
More partner than competitor. Since establishing diplomatic ties with Korea in 1886, France has always found ways to renew its business presence in the country, from investing in infrastructure development to providing financial services. And with the free trade agreement between Korea and Europe in 2011, a new generation of French entrepreneurs has also been entering Korea.
With almost 200 French companies operating in the Korean market, direct investment from France over the past 5 years reached around $1 billion. That makes France the 8th largest investor in Korea.
There are many things that make Korea an attractive market for French companies, including digital advertising firm Criteo.
The infrastructure, such as the high-speed internet, is phenomenal. The fast-changing pace and market growth also make Korea an attractive place to try out new businesses.
Archimis, an audio processing company focused on improving sound quality, discovered that when they came to Korea 5 years ago.
But if you come with the right product at the right time and the right price, then nothing is impossible. We are the proof of it.
French entrepreneurs say there are still many opportunities for partnership between the two countries. But, as with any business relationship, there is always room to improve.
It's a little bit unstable. There's too many laws, and the law change too quickly. There's many interpretation. The regulation sometimes is not very clear.
The shared message from French entrepreneurs in Korea is a need for a more hospitable and predictable business environment, along with fewer regulations and a simpler legal system. The growing number of French firms entering Korea shows that companies are happy to invest in Korea. The challenge for Korea is to make sure that they will continue to do so by creating a better business climate. Hwang Ho-jun, Arirang News.
Now, the defense chiefs of South Korea, the United States and Japan have been discussing North Korea at a big annual defense conference in Singapore this weekend. They've pledged to work together to tackle the North Korean nuclear issue. Our Defense Ministry correspondent Kim Hyun-bin files this report from Singapore.
Over 35 countries and 23 defense ministers from the Asia-Pacific region are in Singapore this weekend for the 15th Shangri-La Dialogue, Asia's largest multinational security meeting. Ways to contain and ultimately denuclearize North Korea have been taking center stage at the conference. Giving a speech on Saturday, Seoul's Defense Minister Han Min-koo emphasized the importance of fostering international support to rein in Pyongyang's nuclear ambitions.
I ask those of you in attendance today to lend your collective strength so that North Korea relinquishes its obsession and delusion about nuclear weapons as soon as possible. We want Pyongyang to get involved in a sincere dialogue.
North Korea's nuclear and missile threats also topped the agenda at one-on-one talks between Minister Han and U.S. Secretary of Defense Ashton Carter. They reaffirmed that North Korea's fourth nuclear test and long-range ballistic missile launch earlier this year was a direct violation of UN Security Council resolutions. Carter vowed the U.S. will continue to provide extended deterrence to South Korea. utilizing all categories of its military capabilities to deter the North. Seoul's defense chief also met separately with his Japanese counterpart, Gen Nakatani, ahead of trilateral talks with Carter and Nakatani. The three defense chiefs discussed ways to enhance defense cooperation and intelligence sharing to better counter threats posed by North Korea. Mr. Han is scheduled to seek support from his French and Swiss counterparts on Sunday, the final day of the meeting. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News, Singapore.
Now, the United States has warned of China's growing aggression in the South China Sea. Washington's defense chief says Beijing risks erecting a, quote, great wall of self-isolation in the region. Our Ji Myung-gil with the details.
U.S. Secretary of Defense Ashton Carter had some stern words for China on Saturday at the annual Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore. Carter said China is pushing hard to expand its military presence across the South China Sea.
Indeed, in the South China Sea, China has taken some expansive and unprecedented actions that have generated concerns about China's strategic intentions.
Carter added that countries in the region have been taking action and voicing concerns publicly and privately at the highest levels. China's claim to nearly the entire South China Sea has angered its Southeast Asian neighbors and pitted it against Washington, which has conducted patrols near Chinese-held islands to press for freedom of navigation. The contested waters also encompass key global shipping lanes. Carter urged Beijing to join the regional trend of engaging in dialogue with its neighbors or risk diplomatic isolation.
As a result, China's actions in the South China Sea are isolating it at a time when the entire region is coming together and networking. Unfortunately, if these actions continue, China could end up erecting a great wall of self-isolation.
The U.S. defense chief said Washington is willing to expand its bilateral military agreements with China to focus on risk reduction in the region, but also to build upon practical cooperation. Carter's attendance at Asia's largest security summit is part of a broader U.S. diplomatic push known as the Asia Rebalance to build and maintain Washington's alliances in the Asia-Pacific region. Kim Hyun-gil, Arirang News.
Now, Chinese banks that do business with North Korea look set to lose billions of dollars in the wake of the new U.S. Treasury Department sanctions on Pyongyang. Citing analysts, the New York Times reports that smaller Chinese banks that facilitate the bulk of North Korea's business in China will be hit. The Times quoted an expert who said Chinese banks near the border with North Korea would probably not want to risk continuing business with Pyongyang because the cost of U.S. sanctions would far outweigh the benefits. The report said North Korea might look to Cambodia and Indonesia as possible avenues to conduct financial transactions outside the normal banking systems. Now, major banks in China, like the Bank of China, suspended their North Korean accounts after the North's third nuclear test in 2013. The report comes a matter of days after Washington's designation of North Korea as a primary money laundering concern, a measure aimed at locking the regime out of the global financial system. South Korea's major political parties remain locked in a bitter stalemate over which party should hold key posts within the 20th National Assembly. The three parties, the ruling Saenuri Party, the main opposition Minju Party of Korea and the minor opposition People's Party, have been unable to agree on who should get the coveted National Assembly Speaker position. The parties also have to fill the chairmanships of various standing committees as well. Given the standoff, it's unclear whether lawmakers will be able to elect a speaker by the self-imposed deadline of next Tuesday, June 7th. If they can reach an agreement on that post, it will improve the likelihood of the party smoothly electing the heads of 18 standing committees by next Thursday, June 9th. The positions need to be filled for the National Assembly to start working on new legislation. Now, in economic news, South Korea's top 10 business groups have seen their market capitalizations slide this year amid a drawn-out slump in domestic and overseas markets. Data compiled by industry tracker FN Guide shows the combined market value of Samsung, Hyundai and 8 other business groups stood at $534 billion as of Friday, down 1.7% from the end of last year. Korea's biggest conglomerate, Samsung Group, saw its market market cap dropped the most, over 1.8%. It was followed by companies such as LG Group, Hyundai Motor, Hanwha and SK. One bright spot for Samsung, though, is that it enjoyed an almost 4% rise in its market cap over the past month, thanks mostly to a rally by its flagship Samsung Electronics. Now, very sad news in the world of sport, because boxing legend Muhammad Ali has died at the age of 74. The former world heavyweight boxing champion had been fighting a respiratory illness, a condition that had been further complicated by Parkinson's disease. A spokesman for the family said he died at a hospital in Phoenix, Arizona. The funeral will take place in Ali's hometown of Louisville, Kentucky. Nicknamed the Greatest, Ali became the first boxer to capture a world heavyweight title on 3 separate occasions. Crowned Sportsman of the Century by Sports Illustrated and Sports Personality of the Century by the BBC, Ali was also a civil rights campaigner and poet who transcended the bounds of sport, race and nationality. Now, the swollen waters of the River Seine in Paris are now at a 30-year high following even more torrential rain there. Floods have forced the closure of the metro systems and major landmarks, including the Louvre. Staff there had to move artworks to safety as flood levels climbed to nearly 6.5 meters. More than 15 people are reported to have died across Western and Central Europe in flooding that has affected areas from France all the way to Ukraine. Tens of thousands of people have been forced to leave their homes. Korean researchers have discovered a way to clone ancient trees. The technology is expected to help preserve these natural monuments if and when they are lost due to climate change or natural disasters. Our Park Se-young has the details.
This 700-year-old tree was registered as a natural monument to preserve its cultural and historical value. But climate change and natural disasters pose serious threats to its existence. In order to continue the lineage of ancient trees, Korean researchers have found a way to clone them on an industrial scale. This is possible because a tree's unique characteristics become increasingly apparent with age. After 15 years of research, the team successfully mass-produced seedlings with the genes of the 700-year-old tree for the first time. The fresh seedlings were produced through somatic embryogenesis, which uses leaves or leaf stalks for cloning. Researchers abroad have been working with similar technologies to clone old trees. But until now, ancient trees of 100 years old or more were only cloned in small quantities as there was a high chance of abnormalities in the cloning process.
The aged tissues of old trees cannot be reproduced through existing methods. We've developed a technology to rejuvenate or apply stress to ancient trees to more easily create new seedlings.
The researchers expect the new seedlings to grow just like their ancestors and to survive for centuries to come. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
Now, as we normally do at this time on a Saturday evening, we're going to give you a brief overview of the weekend weather here in Korea. And most of the country is under cloudy skies this evening. Temperature-wise, we are going to see the mercury dip to 14 degrees Celsius overnight in Seoul. Sunday is going to be rather hot, but sunny, with the high hitting 31 degrees Celsius in Seoul. With that, let's take a look at the weather around the world. Well, that's all we have for now on this extended version of our Saturday evening newscast here on Arirang. Do enjoy the rest of your Saturday wherever you're watching us and stay tuned to Arirang TV. We'll be back again with our next newscast at 10 p.m. Korea time. So until then, goodbye.